Um,
Wait, when did you end up finding out about that other gig?
Oh, let's not talk about that on live. It's a different, yeah.
Okay, yeah, sorry, wait, I completely forgot.
No.
Let's see, wait. Well, I think let's see what's some friends. All right. Let's make friends in the comments since they're ignoring us. Well, I think I auditioned for a bunch of stuff while I've been up here. So I'm still waiting on word for hearing on some of that stuff, but a lot of it is just, I mean, it's not exactly day player stuff, but it's just like something that'd be, for a few days and then coming back.
I'm interested in how that works. Like, have you been doing tape yourself in your?
No, so Alana helps me out with the tapes. So fortunately, I have this well lit living room, so the sun literally just beams right through the balcony. So
and
it's
I'm
a very well
too, because it's like if you're getting tugs on things and you book stuff from living in like a cabin, or whatever, like a nice like rural spot in New Hampshire, and it doesn't sort of stymie you being able to book jobs.
No, it doesn't.
Then it's like, then that really kind of destroys the mythology of I need to be in the pulse of the whatever blah 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 place in order to be able to be a professional performer.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think that it's exclusively a 2010s thing.
What's going on right now?
Yeah, like the ability to do what we're doing right now. The ability to be out in the middle of the woods and still have a shot at, being an actor. But I think it's obviously a spot that needs to be earned. And, it's not, I mean, for anybody in live, you can't just be an actor by, living in the woods. You could definitely have to move to the city.
Yeah, you have to take a Faustian bargain. What you have to do is you have to conjure a familiar, and then you cut your thumb, and you sign it in blood. And then, weirdly enough, you can start booking jobs from wherever you are in the country.
Or you can take that route. You can take that option too.
It works. You just the mortgage is pretty steep.
Well, when are you gonna make your way up here, fool?
Soon, yeah. Whenever you're, sometime in September, I can do whatever. Like next week after that, come up for a couple of days and we can bang out a couple of things. Probably we should.
Yeah, I read the apology yesterday, which is the first entry of the Plato book.
Did you see the? I mean, you obviously didn't see it, but you saw that they did, like Michael Stuhlbarg did, the trial, the apology. Essentially, they adapted it for stage and they did it to public.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
And Michael Stuhlbarg played Socrates?
Yeah, apparently he fucking crushed it, which is not surprising to me. He's an incredible actor.
I wish I would have seen that. That would have been cool.
Yeah,
I loved him in A Serious Man.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. No. He's fantastic. He's amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, what's interesting is out here, man, I'm so puzzled by so many comments I heard about New Hampshire that there's nothing to do up here, and everybody sort of groans whenever they say that they're from New Hampshire, but I'm having a blast. This place is amazing.
Yeah, it's weird. I have this sort of the same thing. Is like I'm from the burbs, but I kind of always like growing up, like I wanted to be like it's weird. If you talk to anybody from like flat ass wherever, you know what I mean? It's not anybody, but some people say like, especially young people, they say like I want to go where the action is. I want to go to one of the coasts, or I want to go to whatever, Seattle, or I want to go to Chicago, or I want to go to whatever. You know what I mean? Me, when I was a kid, I always wanted to, like, I always was like, oh, yeah, man, Kansas City, that's the spot. Like Knoxville, Tennessee, like, that's the spot, even though I had, like, no precedent whatsoever. And I don't know if it's a sentiment I exactly maintain to the day, but it's like my whole thing is I want to skip the part where you got to go and be, like, young and moving, shaking in, like, wherever metropolitan area and go right to, like, here's my house that I built myself.
Well, dude, I think that going back on the whole kind of like living it up kind of perspective where you sort of burn yourself out during youth, like after seeing Malik's moves and seeing like how Clint Eastwood and sort of Woody Allen behave, in this stage of their life, the stage of life they're in now. Like, I wonder if, okay, Scalia, the Supreme Court justice, that died, that was replaced by Trump. So Scalia was an intellectual of like the sort of highest order, and he kind of like got this kind of intellectual law celebrity status by being on the Supreme Court, but it wasn't until well past like his 50s. So, and I remember reading a bunch of watching some interviews with him about because they're like, you're a brilliant man, you're in the mold of the old Supreme Court justices, people like learned people, it's like people of your kind don't really exist anymore because of how thorough, like how profound he was in his analysis of decisions or law decisions and stuff. But the point is that he was like, he kind of dismissed his youth very kind of like with some flippancy, because he was kind of like, I was a greasy grind as a kid. It's a direct quote. It's like, I was a greasy grind, and I that's a term that we don't have in this era. I looked it up, and greasy grind meant that kid that just sat in the library all day and had no friends. So he like one of those guys that like didn't drink, didn't smoke, like was just literally just focused in on his nerdy kind of pursuits. And then it's like, as he aged, and especially like it looks like he reached the golden stretch of his life in the last quarter of it. In the last quarter of it, he was known as this like bodacious kind of over the top, charming, profound guy on the Supreme Court who always had something witty to say and always had a comical take on issues that were very complex. Yeah. And I'm thinking about Malik, and I think about a handful of other people, and I hope that I'm the sort of person that doesn't really reach their stride until they probably reach their elderly years. Like, literally does it, and like once they feel the tug of death coming at them, and knowing that they've acquired as much wisdom as is probably going to be possible, in their life. And then in those last final 20 to 25 years of their life, they really like just end it with a bang. Like Karl Lagerfeld. Think of Karl Lagerfeld. Yeah. He literally did it to his last breath. It's like, but not whenever you think of Karl Lagerfeld, you think of him as an old man running Chanel and running Fendi, in his 80s. Yeah. And I have and that's what he's remembered for. Obviously, he has a list of accomplishments, but he's remembered for being the 80-something-year-old that was running 3 fashion houses. Because it's kind of like I imagine that the Maliks and the Karl Lagerfelds and the Scalias of the world already assume and are very aware of how little they know about the earth and the world, and it isn't until they come closer to death that they start to kind of really not care. Well, it's like, but
oh no, you finish since you're on a tip.
Yeah.
What?
No, that was pretty much it.
Well, the two things. First of all, I think that, yeah, sick, I'm in agreement. I think that it's tough. It's like the thing that comes with dialing in so much and being, what do you say? You can't even say the word without sounding like a prick. Esoteric, right? Which means it's having a specialized interest in topics. It's hard to like dive into that stuff without the thing that comes with it is like you got to circumnavigate being perceived as a prick. Like, I had this interview that came out today, and I read it, and goddamn, I sound like a fucking knob in the whole thing. I'm like, oh god, I can't even. I cringe so hard, I can't even. But it's like, I guess you can't help it if somebody broaches the topic of something that you're interested in, and just word vomit out. You're just so, I guess because you're so starved for. Engaging in things that you care about so much. The second thing, though, is I think, yeah, as long as it's as you say, it's like as long as you have the foresight to have, I don't even know if it's a goal, like an end goal, or just kind of to take these quote unquote weird sort of niche pursuits seriously, and view them your whole life as a means to an end, then sure, I think that they will amount to something. I think that it's when people get lost along the way because they feel like they have to compromise or are forced to compromise because, bills knock on the door, or, somebody dies or something happens, that people end up feeling like they've wasted time and they end up jaded or disillusioned. But it is affirming to find out that there's some people that through sheer perseverance end up in a situation where they sort of blossom at the sum total of their of years and years of effort. I think that's cool. Not only cool, that's sort of a kitschy way to put it, but I think it's a model, something to chase after. So yeah, fuck yeah, man, do that.
But I remember, fuck, who was it? Was it the La Rochefoucauld, or was it? I think it was Pascal. It might have been Pascal who said, a true philosopher. I think I told you this quote already. The true philosopher has no time for philosophy.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying I'm a philosopher by any means,
right.
But I feel like at this point in my life, I feel like I get that quote a little more.
Yeah.
More than that. Dude, I haven't told you about my nephew. My nephew, so I went down to Tennessee to visit my family, my brother and his family, and he has 2 boys. And my brother graduated from West Point with honors, so he's like, he's this fucking really hard dude, because it's not easy to graduate to be accepted into West Point, period, let alone graduate with honors. So he, so he was raised in this like super military background, and he's the brother that I told you was so smart that I showed him a magic trick, and he was able to do it back to me within 5 minutes. So he watched this entire magic trick play out, and he sat there and thought about it and called me over and performed the magic trick for me. So I was like, oh, I was like, whoa. I was like, he was able to work out the logic in his head on how that could have been possible. So he's exhibited really freaky demonstrations of intelligence that go beyond a kind of intelligence that I possess, and so he has 2 boys named Kyle and Weston, and Weston is his older one, and Weston totally took to his dad. So it was very interesting to see him kind of live his life as how old is he now? 12? Yeah, he's 12 years old. So I was hanging out with him, and I was talking to him about, what he's into and what he likes doing and everything. And he just starts going off about this app he has that can calculate the level of magnetism getting kind of shot out from the Earth. So his thing at the time the first day I got there was him showing me how he can measure the magnetism around certain just play spots. The magnetism is higher there. If you turn this on when you're on a plane, you can tell when they're about to start the engine. And he goes off on all these facts. He's a 12-year-old about the magnetism on the Earth. So then I'm like, I start going off about him, and he has several times where he exhibits like these extraordinary feats of intelligence. And I'm like, so then I tell him, I read an article somewhere that a 12-year-old